The half kneeling single arm pull down. This ultimately, just like every other pull down variation, is predominantly focused on vertical pulling mechanics, right? So we're focusing on upward and downward rotation of the shoulder blade. We're focusing on the arm going through flexion and extension. And as far as the muscles that we're trying to develop and work and strengthen, predominantly we're going to be looking at the lats, the posterior shoulder muscles, as well as the biceps and triceps and pecs to some extent. But predominantly it is the lats that we're working on here. Now the advantages to setting up in a half kneeling position are similar to why the half kneeling position is advantageous in a lot of other exercises too, and that is that it requires us to stabilize our pelvis a little bit more intentionally, and it really forces us to be mindful of the positioning of our rib cage, spine, and pelvis, and how they are affecting the mechanics in our extremities, in this case our arms. Now in terms of setup, whether or not we're pulling with the arm on the same side of the flexed hip versus the extended hip is largely going to be determined by where you're lacking integration or stability, or where you have the most trouble, generally speaking. With the working arm being on the same side of the extended hip, we're typically going to be a little more challenged in terms of our alignment with our ribs and our pelvis, just because the anterior core is going to be having to work a little bit harder, and the position is going to pull us into a little bit more of spinal extension by default. Whereas if we have the working arm on the same side of the flexed hip, it will make the rib cage pelvis congruency a little bit easier to maintain, which might be the most advantageous thing for you.